Let's now speak to Chris Gunness, who's the former chief spokesperson for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine, UNRWA. He's joining us from London. Thank you so much for being with us. We heard Gaza's health ministry say today that in just a few hours, many hospitals across the Strip will stop operating because fuel in their generators will have run out. And this is coming at a crucial time when we're seeing so many more casualties from these Israeli airstrikes. You know this territory very well. How much help is left, really? How much resources are left to help those who are in need right now?
Well, make no mistake, Gaza is being transformed as we speak from what a former British Prime Minister once called the world's largest open-air prison into the world's largest open-air death camp. And to answer your question specifically, Gaza is staring into an abyss. Fuel, which is what will keep the water plant, the pumping station open, that has run out. So water, the basic element of life, is really not available to 2.2 million people as a matter of direct political choice. The Israeli defense minister made it very clear that the blockade of Gaza would be absolute. We know that about 150 trucks have been let in since the 21st of October. It is not enough. And what we're seeing now is not just a catastrophe, but a catastrophe of choice.
Why aren't more aid trucks being let in?
I beg your pardon?
Why aren't more aid trucks being let in? Of course, there's a bombing, but...
Well, that is a very good question. And the real question is, why isn't more pressure being put on Israel to allow more aid trucks in? At the moment, the UN is saying that 100 trucks a day is what they need. Actually, before this present round of fighting, UNRWA was taking in 500 trucks a day. Now, I've actually been through the Rafah crossing. It's one single lane in one direction and one single lane in another, and Israel bombed it in the early days of this conflict. What we need to do is open what's called the Kerem Shalom crossing point, which is like a huge industrial multi-lane transshipment point into Gaza, and that would allow the necessary volumes of aid to get through. But unless and until that happens, I'm afraid we're going to start seeing waterborne diseases, we're going to start seeing communicable diseases, we're going to start seeing, not just the women and the babies who need this hospital care, but we're going to see ordinary people in the streets starting to die. And that, in my view, is completely unconscionable. We need to get 500 trucks a day, as UNRWA was doing before this violence, into Gaza.
You talked about the Rafah crossing, Mr. Gunness, and there was a glimmer of hope earlier today when we saw some injured people leave Gaza through the Rafah crossing to get into Egypt. How much relief does opening that border crossing bring, even if to a limited number of people?
I mean, it's infinitesimally small and so below what is actually needed. We need complete and unhindered humanitarian access. Nothing short of that is going to avoid the looming catastrophe. And let no world leader, whoever they may be, say they did not know. The world has seen, and what we're seeing arguably is the start of a genocide. I know there's been talk about genocide, and I'm not saying there is necessarily a genocide, but it's an obligation on all signatories to the Genocide Convention to prevent genocide. And this kind of mass displacement, which we may see, is pre-genocidal, and we have to stop it. We have to have full humanitarian access into and out of the Gaza Strip.
Mr. Gunness, thank you so much for talking to us. Chris Gunness is the former chief spokesperson for UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.